Everyone in the Alabama sports community seems to be walking back predictions they made yesterday in favor of four-star edge KJ Ford. I'm going to tell you why. Stick around. Let's talk about it. This is Way Off Sides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be is happy Friday. It's the weekend. We were all gearing up and excited for a commitment that was going to happen later on this evening. The commitment's still going to happen, but fresh off predictions from Steve Wiltfong, Andrew Bone, it looked like Alabama was going to land four-star edge out of Duncanville, Texas. KJ Ford. Ford visited Alabama back in the last weekend of May. It was a weird situation in that Alabama wasn't even in his final three that he had posted about a week ago. And then out of nowhere, it looks like Alabama starts gaining some momentum. I'm going to tell you what's going on with this. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I told everybody on Twitter yesterday, I was like, let's see what happens here. It seemed, the whole situation seemed weird. We weren't really behind the scenes in terms of understanding or being communicative with anybody regarding his recruitment. So we didn't really know. We were just kind of going off of what Wiltfong, Andrew Bone, like those folks, that what they were saying, and just following suit, talking about what they were saying, obviously giving credit where due. But so this is weird. So I've had about 6 hours to digest it, because as of today, those same people have now flipped those predictions back to Florida. And it looks like the favorite now to land the four-star edge tonight when he commits is the University of Florida. So I've had a few hours to kind of digest this and try to understand and make sense of it. I've talked to some people who are a little bit more dialed in on this than I am, to kind of get a better understanding and present you with an opinion that at least holds some kind of water. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I do think that this drama, you could say, does point at something else very big for Alabama. Most of you know what I'm talking about, and we're going to talk about that a lot in the coming week or so. So please make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell. You won't miss a second of it. We'll bring it all right to your smart device, your computer, wherever you're watching. So let's start. Yesterday, surprise prediction. Everybody was putting in predictions for four-star edge KJ Ford. Great. That's fantastic. Alabama needs edge rushers. Almost immediately, fans who keep up with recruiting started asking, well, does this mean we're not getting Anthony Tank Jones, the five-star edge out of St. Paul's down in Mobile? A lot of folks started kind of panicking. Oregon fans started tweeting that, hey, yeah, this means Tank must be coming to Oregon. Don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's more between Alabama and Texas A&M, but the immediate concern and confusion around the news was that what does this mean about Tank Jones? Well, we try to talk it away. It doesn't really matter. Tank Jones is going to be the priority no matter what. And although that's true, I think the answer has kind of come today. Alabama seems like it was the place that KJ Ford always wanted to be. He wanted to be at Alabama. I don't know that for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one that reached out to Alabama and pretty much said, hey, you guys are where I want to be. Can you meet my dollar amount? And maybe Alabama was going to do that at a certain point, but then they realized it may put other plans down the road in jeopardy, or maybe plans they already have on the table in jeopardy. And so I think Alabama might have walked away from this deal. I don't know that for sure. They might have walked away. They might have countered whatever Ford wants, and Ford walked away. But either way, it now looks like Florida's going to be the main player to pick up KJ Ford, which is fine. That is not a big deal. This is somebody who wasn't really on our radar. He will be the first miss on our Woot board, which is okay. That's fine. Nobody goes 100%. And to be honest, we probably shouldn't have put him on the Woot board, because we're basing this solely off of what Wiltfong and other people were saying. It's not somebody we're really keeping up with in the past couple of weeks, like we have been with Xavier Griffin and Sedarian Morgan and Xavier Crowell. And that's not to say that he's not as important as those guys, but it felt like, he dropped the top 3 and Alabama wasn't in it, right? So that's where a lot of the confusion started yesterday, because out of nowhere, he is trending heavily towards Alabama, and these guys that are really tapped in and are usually pretty spot on start predicting him, Wiltfong bombs or whatever he calls them, Bones predicting him. They're all putting in predictions, expert predictions, quote unquote, expert predictions. I am no expert. So we fall asleep, and then this morning you kind of get up, and it started with me. Yesterday, are you sure about that? It's like, yeah, man, check ON3. I'm like, all right. So I read it, and I'm like, whoa, that's really cool. What the hell's going on? This is weird. This is strange. And then once you get over that initial shock, you realize it's really not that weird and not that strange. A lot of this is going on where kids are, they maybe want to be somewhere. They feel like they want to play at that place, but they're not willing to come down on their ask. And I think that is what's happened here. And I don't think KJ Ford hates Alabama. I don't think he was using Alabama to get more money. I don't think he was leveraging Alabama for that out of Florida. I think Florida definitely upped his deal, and that was a byproduct. But I think he genuinely wanted to play at Alabama. I think he wanted to be at Alabama, and Alabama couldn't meet his number. Now, why didn't Alabama meet his number? Well, Alabama currently has a couple of guys already in line for that edge position. And so, but we all know that the exclamation point on it all, the exclamation point on what Alabama's done so far this summer is Anthony Tank Jones, 5-star edge out of St. Paul's. And interestingly enough, around the same time the RPM started changing back to Florida for KJ Ford, Rivals and On3 also post an article where they talked to Anthony Tank Jones, and he discussed about how Alabama has always been his dream school. He grew up an Alabama fan. He's always wanted to play at Alabama. The relationships there that he's developed are extremely important to him, and that there is a school leading in his recruitment, which, based off of what you read in that article, sounds like it's Alabama. He's got it down to 3 schools right now: A&M, Oregon, Bama, which is a little concerning because, these are all NIL schools. But you're coming off a week ago where you had some folks saying behind the scenes that, hey, look, there's some trending here to Texas A&M. So it kind of feels like Alabama has gone, all right, we're going to have to invest in this dude. Because I feel like Tank Jones is a guy that Alabama must have in this class. Not necessarily to win. They're going to win with him or without him. But I think Tank Jones is the kind of guy who makes a statement. We all talked about Ryan Williams being Kalen DeBoer's Julio Jones, right? Sure, absolutely. But a guy like Tank Jones, landing him and keeping him in state when Auburn couldn't keep Naheem Offord in state last season, Alabama couldn't keep Naheem Offord in state last season, winning this guy kind of rounds out the state of Alabama for Kalen DeBoer and his staff. And it really puts a stranglehold on Hugh Freeze and Auburn in saying, this is still our state. We're still in control here. And the rest of college football needs to be paying close attention to what we're doing. That's why getting the verbal from Sedarian Morgan, getting the verbal from Xavier Crowell were so important. At least I think so. This is just my opinion. I think that it's more for the statement and the precedence that it sets, landing the top 3 players in the state of Alabama, because Auburn and Auburn fans have been pretty vocal that they felt like this staff wasn't going to be able to out-recruit Hugh Freeze in the state of Alabama. Well, quickly we're realizing that is not the case. That's not the case. We'll see what happens in the long run. Again, it's July 10th or 11th. And a lot of this stuff will change over the coming weeks. A lot of things will change as we get closer to signing day in December. I think that there are guys out there who haven't even visited Bama yet. And I'm talking high profile guys who are going to have to, when they make a visit to Bama in the fall during the season, who are going to have to go, wait a minute. This might be where I want to be. I think there are some guys at Alabama who will do the same thing. I don't know it's going to be, your Sedarian Morgan and Xavier Crowell type guys. I don't think it's going to be any of the guys that have shut down their recruitments. I don't think it's going to be like an Xavier Griffin, anybody like that. But Bama will lose one or two to flips. It happens to everybody. It's going to happen to Georgia. It's going to happen to Oregon. It's dang sure going to happen to Oregon and USC with the number of commits that they have. Because there's no way that they can stay within any kind of cap or really offer those kids legitimate playing time anytime soon, or they'll be there. It'll be like Texas A&M a few years ago. They'll be there, transfer portal opens after the season, and then boom, a bunch of them enter. But in terms of KJ Ford, I think you're already kind of seeing it. A lot of fans feel like he used Alabama to kind of leverage more money out of Florida. I don't think that was the case. Talked to somebody I trust very, very much. I have a lot of trust in him. He's been on the show, and he said, hey, I think KJ wanted to play at Alabama. I don't think this is as dirty as it looks on the surface. So I do want to encourage Alabama fans to not go hard at this kid on social media. That's never a good look under any circumstance. He's a kid, right? But I also want you to think about, like, if you had, let's assume it was either KJ Ford or Tank, right? Obviously, I think the majority of people would want Tank over KJ Ford. It's not to say KJ Ford isn't a good get. If he does commit to Florida tonight, that's an amazing get for Billy Napier and company. But I think Alabama comes out on the greener side if they land Anthony Tank Jones. And that is an if. That is not a prediction. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I feel good about it right now. But again, it's July. And things change rapidly. If you don't believe me, just ask Andrew Bone and Steve Wiltfong, who put in predictions for Alabama to land KJ Ford yesterday and now have flipped those predictions for him to land with Florida when he commits later on today. It's a wild world out there in recruiting, and I try my best to bring as much news and updates to you guys as possible. How can you keep up with it all? Well, I'll do it for you. All you've got to do is like, subscribe, definitely hit the notification bell, because when you do that, it comes straight to you. Every time we post something. So we appreciate you guys. We love each and every one of you. You're all fantastic, beautiful people. Hang in there. There's some good stuff coming for Alabama. They're not done yet. I promise you that much. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.